So it's talk time now, and also time to talk about the state of the nation. The issue of restructuring the federal system of government has been on the front burner for some time now, but there are other pressing issues.
Indeed, because the Boko Haram issue in the northeast, attack by Fulani herdsmen, and a host of other issues are of great concern. But first, let's take this background story before we go into the discussion proper.
Many proponents of restructuring have hinged their agitation on the perceived marginalization of the minority groups in the sharing of the nation's resources and opportunities, ethnic and religious discrimination crisis, environmental degradation, overbearing influence of the federal government on the federating units. But the federal government continued control of resources deposited in states has left the units as a mere geographical expressions which merely depend on whatever allocation they get from the center. Stakeholders and most Nigerians have over the years called for restructuring as a way of addressing such grievances.
What Atiku Abubakar is saying is creating a restructuring Nigeria to show more equity, to give the different regions sense of belonging, to give the different regions the ability to do what? To progress on their own.
Is Nigeria really growing up? I don't think so. I don't think so. Because you go everywhere is in shambles. Believe you me. You know, you don't see any development. And when you say growing up, you have to measure it with development. But in Nigeria, you know, it's not like that.
Recently, the Vice President, Professor Yomi Oshibajo, on our current affairs program, Journalist Hangout, cleared the air on the type of restructuring he favors.
The whole idea of restructuring Nigeria is a major concept. It's a huge thing. There are many issues surrounding it. For example, I have always been a strong believer in fiscal federalism. That is to say that the states must have more resources. And we went to the Supreme Court. I was part of the Supreme. I actually went to the Supreme Court as Attorney General of Lagos State, no less than 10 times on issues of fiscal federalism. As a matter of fact, one of the things we said when at that point was that we were trying to restructure Nigeria's federalism by court action.
The agitators believe that a restructured Nigeria will enable the federating units to explore their natural resources and ultimately achieve appreciable growth and development. Ayodele Uzubakun, TVC News, Lagos.
And one of the main issues plaguing Nigeria too is the Kaduna crisis. It's still a bloody era in southern Kaduna as the crisis between Fulani militia and farmers continue unabated.
Lives have been lost and property destroyed in attacks which have sent the federal government grappling for solutions. Our correspondent Tessa Makande gives a historical review of the simile and lesson rest in that area.
Burnt houses and destroyed properties dot the landscape in this part of Nigeria, popularly called Southern Kaduna. The people have been traumatized and rendered homeless. They have also lost loved ones.
We've had the Zangon Kataf crisis. We've had the one that happened in the College of Education, Gidanwa, that spilled into Kaduna. We've had one or two small crises here and there.
The last 6 years haven't been the best of times for them at all. Marauding Fulani militia destroy properties and kill people in unprecedented numbers. But the narrative took a very worrisome dimension in 2013 when Manchok and other areas in the region were invaded, again by Fulani herdsmen. Chawe, Ninte, Godogodo and Goska had their share of the attacks in 2016, and since then, questions have not ceased from the lips of many.
Their intention here are we to leave this place. For what? We don't know. Here we are born. Here they meet us.
Several communities across Nigeria have similarly been attacked by suspected herdsmen. But there are several twists to the unrest that has persisted in southern Kaduna.
This is a pure case of banditry. These are bandits, they are criminals. Their ethnicity, their religion does not matter.
There are two critical issues: land and the discovery of nickel.
Who are the so-called herdsmen? Where do they come from? Why do they carry out these attacks? What are their desires? And why are they never caught? Nasir El-Rufai, who inherited the crisis as governor of the state, traced the crisis to the 2011 general election. He added that it's also a clear case of banditry. His position has been corroborated by Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, the umbrella body for Fulani herdsmen in the country.
We trace these nomadic pastoralists up to the Republic of Cameroon, in Bamenda to be precise, and they told us clearly, their leader told us clearly that his pastoralists and about 200 of his cows were killed.
They organized themselves and came back to revenge. That's their culture. They kill a Fulani man, they send the information from generation to generation until the account is settled.
But hell was let loose on him when he revealed to newsmen the steps taken by his government to address the situation. His critics say paying compensation to a people to stop unleashing mayhem was a step taken in error.
We got a group of people that were going around trying to trace some of these people in Cameroon, in Niger, and so on, and to say, look, there is a new governor. He is Fulani like you. He has no problem with paying compensation for lost lives or livestock.
Why should a state government embark on a foreign policy mission? Foreign policy is under the exclusive list.
Then are the possible ways out of the southern Kaduna unrest was the next question.
They must be sincere to this issue of security. That will not only solve the problem of southern Kaduna, it will solve the problem of insecurity in Nigeria.
Both parties should learn to forgive. This crisis will never end if you think you will go and revenge what happened to you. So we are appealing for all the parties to shed their swords and embrace peace.
There can only be peace if communities choose to live in peace. No amount of law enforcement, no amount of military presence can stop people that are determined to fight each other from fighting. You can only come after they are fought.
The Nigerian police has announced plans for the establishment of a squadron. That's about 700 mobile policemen to be stationed permanently in Kafanchan. This, among other policies of government, it is hoped would lead to lasting peace in southern Kaduna. Tessem Akendi, TVC News, Kafanchan.
All right, we're still expecting to connect with our special guest on the show this morning, right after this break. When we return, we'll get into it, the state of the nation. Well, we're still hoping to connect with our special guest this morning, who we're supposed to be looking at the state of the nation with. Hopefully we can do that before we wrap the show this morning, but let's bring you some other stories before we do that. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, says no Nigerian community is presently under the control of Boko Haram. He says the insurgents have been flushed out of their hideouts and lost grounds have been recaptured. The Army Chief appealed to Nigerians to be vigilant, as some fleeing Boko Haram members are not trying to move to other regions of the country to perpetrate their evil act.
No community is under Boko Haram as at now, or no local government or any ward that can say is under Boko Haram. Our troops are patrolling all those places, and we are coordinating with the multinational joint task force also to ensure that the border areas are well secured and are blocked from any infiltration by these terrorists.
They are helping in all the security challenges that we are having as a nation. Whether you want to say the headsmen, that is, which truly needs to be maybe checked because of this wanton killing that is going on. Whether you want to talk about the Avengers, whether even the kidnapping, even everyday security, they are now getting involved and they are being overworked. We are calling on them all of the time and they're responding. So for that, I want to say well done to them, but to just still challenge them that there's still more to be done. And as a state in Ogun State, they've been tremendous help to us.
Not really overemphasize or even underemphasize the fact that our military men are stretched thin.
Absolutely.
Just in the space of a year or two, we have about 14 operations. We have the Lafia Dule, you have Operation Python, you have Crocodile, you have all sorts of operations going on.
Crocodile Smile, actually.
Crocodile Smile, just to maintain internal security, which is not even what the Constitution has mandated them to do. They are meant to work against
protect Nigeria from external aggression, and all of that. But we cannot, like you said, we can't overemphasize the fact that indeed the Nigerian army has been able to step to the plate in terms of meeting this challenge that is Boko Haram, and not just Boko Haram, core terrorism and all of that. You have all manner of things going on. Kidnapping, crime is on the rise everywhere, from the northeast to down south here. But they're doing all they can. Unfortunately, this last incident that happened yesterday, where the Air Force unfortunately killed some 52 or so people in the IDP camps, maybe some kind of dampener. We're hoping that it doesn't serve as some kind of discouragement to the Nigerian military. Of course, you heard the governor of Ogun State there, Ibikule Amosun, praising the efforts of the military and all of that. But really, this really is not about us. Thankfully, we've been able to connect with one of the greatest Nigerians alive, and talking about the Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka himself, who some people fondly refer to as Kongi. Of course, if you are an ardent reader of some of his major works, you remember Kongi's Harvest, among all others. Trials of Brother Jero.
The Jewel of the Nile is my favorite.
Jewel of the Nile. All right, let's bring him in. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the show. Unfortunately, we were hoping to have you much earlier, but thankfully we've been able to reconnect with you. Welcome to TVC Breakfast.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, the reason why we have you here today, of course, we would have loved to have you much earlier. Now, you made a statement last week in the wake of the southern Kaduna killings, saying that if we don't tame religion, religion will kill Nigeria. How do we tame religion, and exactly what did you mean by that statement?
Well, religion has its place, and I wish to re-emphasize that I'm not saying kill religion, no. But it's going to be brought under control for one obvious reason. Nigerians are not followers of one single religion. Therefore, we have to have a commonality of protocols. And that has to be based on secular principles, which separate religion from mundane activities, responsibilities, and rights. So it's a question of just making sure that religion has its place, and that nobody, I repeat, nobody, however low, however highly placed, pleads religion as an excuse and justification for any activity, any act of omission or commission that goes against the common set of protocols known as law or constitution.
Okay, all right, we've been getting some reports that the attacks are going on in the southern part of Kaduna might not even be a religious war, some kind of reprisal, some kind of revenge of what has happened in the past. What's your take on that? As we have right now, property worth about 5.5 billion really
lost,
to that crisis going on there.
Of the many lives.
Yes, you see, this didn't begin yesterday. It didn't begin last week or last year. It began when those who are in charge of law and order in this country allowed religion and followers of religion to plead religion for acts, outrageous acts against the state and against other people. In other words, the culture of impunity based on religion has been very deeply implanted in this country. How far back do you want to go? Well, let's leave violence aside for a moment. Violence is so obvious. I want to refer to the case of the lawgiver, the former governor of Zamfara, who committed criminal acts known as pedophilia, serial pedophilia. In other words, the abuse of underage girls, the girl child, as they call it, in this country. More than once, I call it serial pedophilia. And he had the impudence, the effrontery, and the confidence to say, and I quote, anything which the Quran says I can do, I will do. Anything which the Quran says I should not do, I will not do. Because the Quran is superior to any constitution. Now, this is somebody who was in charge of a state who was supposed to defend the constitution, defend the law, and then became a lawgiver. And he had the guts to tell this nation that anything his religion says he can do, even if it goes against the law. That is what I'm talking about killing religion in this country. And ordinary people, they look at somebody like that as an example and say, well, if somebody abuses my scriptures, I have a right to kill that person because that's my religion. That's what I'm talking about, killing. We're talking about very deep, very serious matters. Not just an issue of violence alone, but a mindset. Anybody who does not accept to be bound by the same protocols of association in this nation should just be told to leave, to just migrate somewhere else.
All right, Professor Wole Soyinka will urge you to stay with us. We'll take a very quick break and come back on these issues. Stay with us. All right, our guest on the show this morning is Professor Wole Soyinka, Nigeria's Nobel laureate. Now, let's take you up on the issue of corruption, which you said some time back that corruption will fight back. Now, in this war against corruption so far, what would be your assessment? Who is gaining the upper hand right now?
I'm glad that your question implicates the acceptance of the fact that corruption is fighting back on all fronts. Now, who's gaining the upper hand? I would like to, I think that the fight, the anti-corrupt element in society, I think they are gaining the upper hand right now. I'll tell you why. The consciousness of, I used the word impunity earlier in connection with religion. And for a long time, corruption has been emboldened, has been facilitated, encouraged, and even expanded as a result of the culture of impunity. Now, the nation, the citizen is learning that it may be long, it may take a while, but sooner or later, the fight against corruption may catch up with you. So that consciousness alone, which I believe is becoming widespread, it's for me a plus in the fight against corruption. Just the very, again, the mental makeup of the average citizen.
All right, Professor, the issue of immunity clause in the Nigerian Constitution has been an issue when it comes to a prosecution of those who perhaps are deemed to be corrupt. Your take on that?
I don't believe in immunity. No, I don't believe in immunity. Now, we have there, however, a serious political problem. This country is a very, very difficult country to live in. And to survive with any sense of security, of moral security, physical security, etc. And we spoke earlier of corruption fighting back. The corrupt element in this, the corrupt clan, if you like, is very ruthless. And they can make their members can make governance difficult, if not impossible, simply by the most spurious allegations. I mean, this is one of the ways of corruption fighting back. You take your accusers on and you accuse them in turn. As we say in Yoruba, this happens all the time. And so we have to be very careful and protect, to some extent, those whose work, the work of governance at a certain level, will be seriously impeded if they are made to submit themselves constantly to, shall we say, the charges of the demand of the law. Now, however, the moment they leave office, and we can only talk of a very few, I don't see why a legislator should enjoy the benefits of immunity. What for? Yes, there are several of them. Are we talking about the president, for instance? No, that's different. President of Senate? Why not? The senators can elect another head if he's impeached. So why, if he can be impeached by processes of the legislature itself, why can't he not be impeached by the law? But when you talk about the president, he also can be impeached, of course. But if anyone is allowed, in the process of protecting his or her own name, to try and now be an obstacle in the process of government, I think just one or two people may be given, shall we say, a sabbatical. But the moment they leave office, then of course the full weight of the law. Plus, in fact, bonus on top. For having enjoyed the spoils of office while enjoying immunity, I think there should even be a special law, a special rate of punishment for them when they leave office.
All right, let's look at another issue that has been on the front burner of national discourse for a while now, the issue of restructuring. Many have been calling for restructuring the country, that if that is not done, Nigeria may not move forward. And there has been talk about the unity or the oneness of Nigeria not being negotiable. Do you want to speak to these two issues?
Well, the latter one, for me, I don't even like to hear it. Anything to do with humanity is negotiable. Human beings come together, not by force of arms, at least not these days. They have wills, there are groups which come together to form an association. If things are not going right, it becomes impossible for the community to progress as a result of a certain form of association. Of course, the terms of association are not only negotiable, but mandatory. That slogan for me is meaningless. The unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable, non-negotiable. We're talking about human beings, not slabs of meat or real estate. We're talking about the happiness, the security, the progress of human beings. So let's leave that aside. I don't even like to hear it. Now, as far as restructuring is concerned, we have been screaming restructuring, I don't know for how long. I suppose we'll just have to continue until we recognize the fact, until those in charge recognize the fact that if things are not working, you have to look at those things from a totally different angle. Sometimes it's called lateral thinking. There's over-centralization, first of all. If you begin to decentralize, you are already restructuring. So what's the talk about? Restructuring is inevitable. The longer we delay, the longer we stagnate, the longer we avoid what I call healthy competition between states.
All right.
At the moment, there's a kind of dependency on the center, which is simply not working.
Okay, some proponents of restructuring have said, okay, let's go to our regions the way it used to be. And that brought to the fore the issue of viability of some of the states who can no longer pay salaries. Some of them are owed, some civil servants are owed up to 5-6 months in some cases. How will that work?
Well, the first thing is just to admit that this formula is not working. It's stagnating the people, humanity. Now, I was a member of, if you remember, what did we call it? PRONACO, in which we labored for over 2 years to produce a draft constitution for this nation, a draft constitution, just something to look at to see if it's better than this one. Now, that is only one of the many options. So I'm not about to going back to 6 regions, going back to 4 regions, or going to 6 regions is better. We need, this cannot be just spoken about in a few minutes. We spent 2 years during which we sort of mapped out a grid work of the nation, professions, ethnic nationalities, group interests, and so on, that virtually every corner of this nation was involved in that exercise. So, and I'm sure there have been other exercises. I'm not saying for one single moment, please, adopt what Ronaldo said. No. I'm just saying that it is possible to sit down conscientiously and restructure this nation in a way that is positive for the entirety of the nation.
All right, Nigeria has been facing the problem of Fulani herdsmen. On one hand, Boko Haram is there, Niger Delta militancy is there, and you have said that appeasement is not the way out of these problems. What then would be the way out? How should government engage all of these?
Equity, sense of equity, sit around the table as equals. Don't dictate, don't try and enforce. And by the way, I don't put all of those on the same level. Boko Haram is not on the same level as Niger militants. And within Niger militancy itself, you have crooks, criminals, opportunists, fugitives from justice. That happens in every kind of movement in history. There's nothing strange about it. It's our responsibility to separate the chaff from the wheat, from the grain. In the case of Boko Haram, it's clear. There is no grain, there's nothing positive about Boko Haram. Once you declare yourself, killer. Once you say, follow my way, or I kill you, I slaughter you, bomb you out of existence, and so on. These are enemies, not merely of society. They are enemies of humanity. So I don't put them on the same level as militancy, whether in the Middle Belt or in the Delta or wherever else. Now, Fulani have, let me avoid that. See, I've even got into the habit myself. Herdsmen, wherever they come from, have become a pain. They become a pain. They've proven themselves killers, and they should be treated, those who kill, those who slaughter, they should be treated as murderers. And the same treatment given to Boko Haram should be given to them.
It was a good thing you made a clear distinction between what is happening in the Niger Delta and the Boko Haram issue. I wonder what your take will be on those asking for amnesty for Boko Haram perpetrators or militants.
Amnesty is a very large one. Instead of saying what I would like to see for them, let me tell you what my position when the issue of amnesty was first mooted. And I remember discussing this both with the late Yar'Adua and the ex-president Jonathan, that blanket amnesty is always a dangerous blanket amnesty. You go to great degrees of criminality, incidental criminality, deliberate anti-human approach to even the cause of liberation. Because they are kind against humanity, even in positive liberation movement. Again, this is not peculiar to Nigeria. And my core with what was done at the time was that the amnesty was blanket. It lacked moral rigor. Now, separating, as I said, the extremists, the opportunists from the genuine combatants, the genuine aggrieved element is a harder task. But believe me, in the long term, adopting that rigorous method is more beneficial to the community.
All right, Professor Wole Soyinka, Nobel laureate, it's been such a delight to speak with you on the show this morning. Of course, we had to run against time. Thank you so much, anyway, for having you.
Thank you.